Hi, if you are an Indian business and planning to expand globally, the right structure can make or break your strategy. In this quick video, I'll walk you through the key options and critical consideration to set up your international success. So let's start with the structuring. So if you are an Indian parent company, so you can expand overseas through a branch or through setting up a wholly owned subsidiary or through setting up an intermediary holding company which will in turn have a operating subsidiary in the identified jurisdiction. So here are the key differences between these three forms of entity setup. So a branch is just an extension of your Indian company. A subsidiary is a legally separate entity. From a business and product liability perspective, in case of a branch, the Indian parent entity will assume the risk, whereas under the subsidiary or an intermediate holding company structure, Indian parent entity will assume the limited risk. The intermediate holding structure enables fundraising for overseas business and it can act as a pooling vehicle for overseas operations. In branch, there may be less compliances as compared to the subsidiary or an intermediate holding company structure. So now the question comes, why you should consider an intermediate holding company. So intermediate holding company enables offshore fund utilization, it simplifies the multi-jurisdictional expansion, and there may be tax efficiencies because it will act as a blocker entity for your overseas operation, and there may be centralized control and governance framework into the intermediary holding company. Now the question comes, how to choose the right intermediary holding company jurisdiction. So first consideration is that the territory or market in which your business is proposed to be undertaken is a key. Secondly, you have to also see whether that holding company jurisdiction has a good investment treaty and financing network, and whether there is an availability of skilled resources in that jurisdiction, whether the government incentives and special regimes are available, any capital gain exemption like participation exemption is available in domestic law or not, and it should have a good tax treaty network. So amongst the jurisdiction which are prevalent, the most popular jurisdiction being Netherlands, UK, Cyprus, Switzerland, Singapore, and Mauritius. So once the structure is set, your operating model is a key. Now you have to consider who will bear the significant risks, whether the Indian entity will bear the risk or the overseas entity will bear the risk. From invoicing perspective, which model will be followed, whether it will be a bill to ship to or not, what applicable taxes would be in the IHC jurisdiction and the operating company level like corporate tax, GST, VAT. What would be the funding of the structure, whether it will be funded through debt or an equity, because each mode of funding would have its own implications. Whether there is an FTA, which is a free trade agreement, which is relevant from the custom duty perspective, is signed between India and the overseas jurisdiction. What all taxes would be applicable on the repatriation of income like dividend, interest, what all employee social security law in place is there in the overseas jurisdiction, employee secondment issues, OMPE issues, and you need to also consider the environmental taxes as well, because many jurisdictions like Netherlands and most of the European jurisdiction imposes the environmental taxes on the businesses. To sum up, choose the right structure and build a practical operating model. So global expansion isn't just about opportunity, it's about smart ownership and operational strategy. So you may set up a branch if limited operations are emphasized outside India. Direct subsidiary can be set up where expansion markets are limited, and intermediary holding company model where multi-jurisdictional expansion is desired. So if you want to help in designing your outbound structure, direct message me for more details and let's talk about what works best for your business, and follow me for more updates on cross-border expansion, strategy, tax, and related topics. So stay tuned and have a great day. Thank you.